Hi, very good afternoon to you. Warm welcome. Before we begin, just like to say a special thanks to Robert Watkins, and not just for the emails that he regularly sends me on energy production, climate change, CO2, but also for his continuous support over the years now. And a huge thanks to all the others that have continuously supported what we do here. I just want to say that we're going to be doing tomorrow or the next day, hopefully, the latest position of the magnetic North Pole. And I've been saying this in the last few videos, if we can get a few more people to chip in a few bucks, you know what, we're going to bring the latest position back for everybody on YouTube. So there's something to think about, but if not, then it will continue on Patreon. And you know what, we'd love to encourage more people to join us on Patreon. We've got about 186 at the moment. That's not a lot when you consider we've got 50,000 plus subscribers to the YouTube channel. Be great if just a few more would come over to Patreon. We might be able to do something. I'm going to do something a little different today, before we get on with what we want to talk about. If you want to make a donation between now and say 6 UK time, I'll do a video at 7 and I'll give you a shout out. I know it's not a lot, but it's something, isn't it? It's a little show of appreciation. So the link down there for PayPal is in the description. If you want to support us, you can do that. So on with the email that Robert sent me the other day. He was talking about May in the UK has been a very cool month. Well, I just want to say, it's the 2nd of June today, and I looked out the back window and there was a ground frost. And they are still banging on about CO2 causing global warming. We are, on this planet, going through dramatic climate changes. And, a lot of vegetation is temperature sensitive, only to a couple of degrees change. I just want to, keep my fingers crossed for these farmers that the crops they've got in the ground isn't being damaged by that ground frost we had this morning. It's most unusual. I mean, on the 22nd or the 21st of this month, we will be at the epicenter of the summer. It will be the summer solstice, and we've had a ground frost on the 2nd of June. We are seeing unprecedented weather changes, and what's their answer to it? Well, we need to, as a small island, the UK, we need to go green. And this is just the hypocrisy of everything that's going on. And guys, you must be bamboozled, just like me, as to the direction at which the governments are moving at right now. We've got here in the UK zero. We're not using coal at the moment. I had a look at the national grid today. We're not using any coal today to produce electricity, and the reason for that is because they want to cut CO2 emissions. If we look at China, they're opening up coal power plants every month, with a plan, I think, to open another couple of hundred in the next few years. Coal power production of energy, and they point the fingers, our governments do, at us and make us feel embarrassed for using energy, and it's just crazy. As Robert was saying in his email, we haven't got the space to put all the solar panels and all the wind turbines in order to be totally reliant on renewables. We just don't have it. And we haven't got any new technology at this present time that we can say, okay, we'll swap over to that. It's clean and it's cheaper. We just don't have it. I've seen not Rishi Sunak, but Sir Keir Starmer. They're saying that Labour might win this next election, and I know that we've got elections in July, and I know that America has their elections on the 5th of November this year. And I've never known people not be so optimistic at this present time, because people know nothing's changing. I mean, Sir Keir Starmer said only a couple of weeks ago he was going to kill the green policies and save us millions of pounds. Now he's gone up to Scotland this week and he's talking about how we are going to implement more green policies so that we reduce CO2. You know, that's what people are talking about. You know, the 180 degrees flip. 1 minute they're for the green policies, next minute they're not. Donald Trump is saying that he's going to cut these green taxes and policies. And I think it's the right thing to do, because it's all right having the idea of going green and clean. There's nothing wrong with that. But you've got to look at the affordability and the pressure that these policies are putting on, you know, global economies that simply can't afford it. They talk about inflation going down, but they're not, you know, the real inflation, where we feel it in the pockets, is not going anywhere. You know, it's still as high as it ever has been. You know it as well as I do. When we go in the shop, you know, nothing is cheaper. They're saying that inflation went from 12% down to 2.5%, is it, or 3% now at the moment in the UK. But does it reflect on your income? Does it reflect on what you spend in the shop? Because we're still spending, when, you know, a couple of years ago, or 3 or 4 years ago, we was probably spending £45 on a week's groceries. Now it's nearly £100 on a week's groceries. So tell me how the reduction in the inflation, like they're saying, has benefited me and you. You know, it's not just, I'm not just talking about the UK. We've got global problems at the moment, and these people seem to think that by expanding government is going to resolve things. It's not. It's putting more burden on the taxpayers. And what makes me sick is that, you know, they are fully aware of the economic depression that we're in right now globally. All these world leaders do. And what are the two biggest ones doing? The UK and the United States, as well as other European countries, as well as a lot of other countries. They're giving money away. The taxpayers' money and the revenues that they've raised in the country from the taxpayers individually, and they're giving it away. Billions of it. Billions and billions of it. Hundreds of billions. For war. For weapons. Not for humanitarian reasons, but for the purpose of war. You know as well as I do, guys, that we keep poking Russia like we are, and how they have not retaliated against NATO at this present time is a bewilder to me. But I'm telling you, they're being very patient right now with NATO. Blowing up pipelines, supplying, you know, strategic weapons that can, you know, hit targets deep within Russia, sinking ships, supplying the weapons to kill soldiers. This war would have already been over and done with if there had been no interference. And I do believe that hundreds of thousands of people would still be alive also in Ukraine and Russia if this war had been finished. They would be alive already. You can't take the clock back and change things. But what you can do is change things right now, and it will affect, you know, the rate of death tomorrow. These things can only be resolved by sitting down and negotiating. Nothing ever gets resolved with a missile and a bomb and a bullet and a couple of 100,000 dead soldiers and civilians. We're living in a crazy world, and I know that you feel it as well. It's not just these tragedies that are caused by climate. We're talking floods that break records in 24 hours of 100 years. You know, but the mentality of these people. Just look at New York's justice system this week in the handling of Donald Trump. You know, I'm not a big fan, and I don't support any of these politicians, because I've come to the conclusion it ain't going to make a difference, because they don't listen. All they're in it for is to wax themselves rich, and I think we all know it. But the point is, I think it is coming to a crescendo where, you know what, we've already got nothing in our pockets, so what do they expect us to give them next? You know, have you noticed? They come up with these reasons to justify massive spending, and then as soon as that one reason's been paid for, there's another one. It's like they've got to keep the momentum going in order to keep, you know, the bribes flowing and the corruption and the laundering of money flowing, and the sums of money are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. America is adding 1 trillion to its national debt every 100 days. You know what I'm going to tell you now? Look up the word insolvency. Well, I'm just going to say this. You know, when the national debt exceeds the GDP, it is officially insolvent. The difference between insolvency and bankruptcy is that nobody has taken a country yet to court and bankrupt them. Not yet. But you know what? It's shameful. The UK is insolvent, America's insolvent, and you know, the countries that are racking up insolvency are increasing at an alarming rate. And I just want to say this. Wouldn't it have been better if they had nothing better to do with those taxpayers' monies around the world to probably chip off a few bucks off that insolvency? Bring back down the national debts. Well, you know as well as I know they're not going to do that, because how can they profit from, you know, that? You know, they can profit from having no audit in government agencies. Of course, we know it happens. You know, they're not audited. If they was audited, you know, there'd be some, you know, there'd be something said about where some of this money gets spent. You know, I can't believe it. America sent some money to the Ukraine in container ships, in cash, and they said it needed to be in cash because it was traceable. You know, and I know, you can't trace cash. They said it was to pay for school teachers, emergency service workers, and government personnel, and a lot of other things. You know, it didn't need to be in cash, as well as I did. And is it any surprise that when we see on the news that people are being fired from the Ukrainian government because when they've gone into their office and they've lifted up the cushions, it's stuffed with cash in bags and just piled up under the sofa? I'm not kidding you guys. I've seen it myself. It is unforgivable what is going on in this world. And the only solution, if you asked me for my opinion, would be try and get away from the system as much as possible. And the more you make yourself self-sufficient, the better off you're going to be. Because that currency that we're all using, the different currencies, doesn't matter which one there, is losing value incredibly fast. And you know what? They want to exchange cash for our labour. Well, at the moment, a lot of people have got no choice. But you know, we are being made in any case obsolete further down this road. You know, all these high-tech companies, Boston Dynamics, Tesla, IBM, Microsoft, Google, they're investing as much as they can in companies that are in the business of artificial intelligence and robotics. Now, just like you've seen the cashiers disappear from your supermarkets for, you know, self-service tills, you're going to be struggling like hell to find employment. It's hard enough now for people, but come 4 or 5 years down the road, when robotics and robots are replacing, you know, the need for human beings to work in industries, it's all over. You know, the continuity of the human species is at the most serious risk today, and as we go into the future, than it ever has been in the entire history of humanity. They talk about democracy. Well, we saw how they abused democracy. They weaponised democracy this week in New York with Donald Trump. I listened to his speech. I think it was in the Trump Tower. And you know what? He has put a lot of things down there for Americans if they support him on November the 5th. He's going to go after Deep State, and you know why. Because he's had, for the last few months now, run-ins with them. You know, these disgusting lawsuits. And all this I can say is, you know, don't let the kettle call the pot black. You know, there are lots of cases where previous presidents have done even worse infringements on law and not paid for it. And we have set a new precedence this week. You know, with how the law works. Let's see if the same brush that slapped and painted up Donald Trump this week is also going to be the same one that deals with, you know, Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. Because if not, well, we know there's a double standard. But if not, you know, the hypocrisy will slap us all in the face once again. Guys, if you want to help support what we do here at the Observatory, and you want your name mentioned out at 7 o'clock today on the 2nd of June, then, you know, there's a link down there in the description. I'll pin it as well in the comment section. And you know what? I can only wish the best for you and your families in these dark times, and hope that there is just a glimmer of things getting better. So what I usually do, as always. Bye for now.